Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the nightly recap powered by Gokhshtein Media. I am Leslie Mota, and tonight I have Hotep Jesus with me. Hotep,
What's
how?
up, Leslie? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Marvelous. Absolutely fantastic. It's Fantastic Friday with my favorite lady,
Um,
Leslie. How'd your day go?
my day is going great, and right now my freaking internet connection is looking like a damn potato in Greece. It is horrible. What the hell always happens? I know Jolie had a bad connection. I am having a bad connection. This is a conspiracy. Hotep, anywho, we're gonna power on through.
I can't see your beautiful face. This is upsetting. This is your face is usually what gets me through this. This is upsetting. I don't like this. Fix your internet, goddammit.
Wait, you really can't see me?
Barely you're like blurry or something like that. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Oh my lord.
This is
Help
terrible.
me help my people. Why can't they see me? You know what? Julie had
This
this
is
issue
ghetto.
earlier today.
This is so ghetto. What the hell is going on where you're living at in Texas?
No, I'm living in Arizona. Remember, David didn't pay my internet.
Oh God.
So here we are having to I know, sticky rivers, damn it. Look, but Hotep, can you see me behind the scenes? No, you can't. Nobody can see me today. Jesus.
No. You're just real grainy. Your connection's real grainy. But
What if
we'll power through.
what if I change my connection? Do you think it'll stop the live?
Yes.
Oh my lord. David, can you come in here and
Just continue and act as if nothing happened.
power through, por favor? You know what? Let me change the video definition and see if that helps a little bit, and then we'll just power
That
through
might
the
help.
whole night.
That might help.
So, okay, I'm gonna leave that alone for a little bit, and hopefully it does help, and I'm not grainy. But
Okay.
Hotep, where
Yes.
were you last week?
Oh, the Grifties. The Grifties. I had an event last week. We had our award show, the Grifties. I had to recall. I was like, where was I last week? So I did Gutfeld over at Fox during the day, and then after that, I came home and I moved this week, so I had to pick up my household and move it, and that was pretty strenuous. But yeah, I was at the Grifties. We had our award show. It was a fantastic time. A bunch of people flew in, come to hang out with us. It was great.
How did the award show go?
It was fantastic. We had a bunch of people bail on us. We had about four people bail on us. We had one no call, no show, but I overbooked talent. So it turned out being better than the original plan, which was
Y-
very unexpected. You kind of set up the show, and then your backup plan was better than your primary plan. So it was a phenomenal. It's out now on YouTube, the Grifties Hotep Nation YouTube channel. And the full version is on Patreon, patreon.com/hotep's been told you. And yeah, so it was a huge success. It was better than last year.
That is freaking amazing. I am so
Thank you.
glad everything went well. And then last night, or when it, no, it wasn't last night, right? It was the night before you went on Gutfield
Yeah. So last Friday I was on Gutfeld. Yeah.
last Friday. How was that? You were looking sharp. You were looking nice in your cream color
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
suit.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to put it on, and represent for the fam when I'm in, national TV. It was a fantastic time. I did really well.
Hotep, remember not the previous Friday, one of the Fridays we were talking about how women drive really bad and that you would never get in a car with me?
Yeah. The women drive like Asians. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want you to stand corrected because I remembered something. Hotep, you have been in a car with me.
Austin,
Yes.
you drove?
Yes. And you were in the back seat of the car, remember? Stacky was in the front and you were in the back seat.
We only drove about a mile though.
but I still drove. The
It
point
was
is that
only
I
about a
drove.
mile. It was right down the street. Now that you said something that, yeah, I was risking my life that day.
It wasn't a mile, it was about 10 minutes away.
Yeah, that was pretty risky.
Yes. So I got you safe to your destination. You were sitting in the back seat of the car and you were so comfortable that you ended up taking a nap until I got you to your destination.
That's not true, is it?
Yeah, because you don't even remember.
Holy shit, I fell asleep.
Yeah, you were taking a nap. You were tired. Remember, it's Texas, it's humid, it's Austin.
Was the sun up or down?
It was the sun was still out. It was, and we were
We just
supposed
came
to.
from a restaurant.
No, remember it was a convention. We were at the convention all day.
Uh-huh.
Well, Stacky and I, we were at the convention all day. I was doing interviews. That's when I first met Wendy O, and I interviewed her at the convention. Was it that year or no? The second year? No, it was the second year. And we were. I think you probably ate six. And honest, I'm not sure. I don't know even
Yeah.
how we connected in the spot that we connected.
I was out to lunch with Six and Honest, and those guys are just so much fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
And then I think you and Stacky pulled up. Yeah, y'all pulled up on us.
Yep.
And yeah, that's when me and you first locked eyes. And yeah. I didn't know I got in the car with you though. Wow.
I think what ended up happening, you were so mesmerized that you don't even remember what the heck happened or how or who got you to your destination. But I was like thinking the other day and I was like, wait, I remember one time like I was driving. And you know why I remembered? Because Stacky posted a post the other day talking about my driving and how she was so freaked out and she was scared. And she was like, "Yeah, this is Leslie's driving." And I was like, "Wait, when did I drive her?" And I was like, "Oh, in Austin." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And then Hotep too. I drove him to his destination.
Well, I wasn't asleep. I was in the back praying.
But you don't even remember. So that means that it was a very comfortable ride, Hotep.
I was praying. That's why my eyes was closed.
Well, yes, yes, but just stand corrected that you drove. You said you would never drive in a car with me, and you actually did, not even knowing how I drove, and I got you to your destination very, very safely.
Something I'll never do again.
One day you will watch. You'll just forget. You'll see me, and then you'll be like, "Okay, I'm gonna get in the car." But on that note,
I was probably drunk.
one way or another, Hotep. But on that note, it's Friday. Friday, we are always looking forward to having a little bit of chocolate. And Julie Kennis from Gokhshtein Media, one of our media personalities, she actually had a birthday today. She also celebrated on live with the cake. And guess what the cake had? It had fudge in the middle of it. And she even poked it with her fingers. So before we get started on the news, let's wish
see.
Julie a
We're going.
happy birthday again.
We're going for it. Look, see? I thought they were doing chocolate with fudge filled, but no diddy, you guys. No diddy. I know. If you guys, if it falls off, it's gonna I'm not gonna be happy. Because I'm gonna have to clean it. I am. Sorry, this cake is really good. Hold on. I wanted to stick my finger in.
She was drinking. She was definitely drinking.
Look,
this is like a very lonely party. Where's the rest of the people at?
Online, this is social media. This is what we've all become.
I know.
Really?
We're rugging, guys.
She stuck her finger in the fudge.
Her hair looks nice.
Mm-hmm. It was the fudge that captivated her.
Who's the lady in the background? Is there somebody like fixing their hair in the background?
Oh,
in that purple room?
No.
Oh, it looks like she has a friend back there. Like,
oh, okay, that was it. I was like, wait, I paused because I was trying to see. I was like, where? What are you talking about in the back? But yeah, happy birthday, Jolie, and
Yeah. Happy birthday, Julie. Yeah.
we all want a piece of cake too. That way we can go ahead and stick our finger in the fudge. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's go
No
ahead and get
comment.
no comment. We all want some hot fudge, but let's go ahead and get started with the news. China is looking to spice things up. After President Trump's new tariffs on Chinese imports, China signaled it would reject nearly finalized deal to sell TikTok's US operations. The deal would have had ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, divest its US assets to American investors, retaining a minority stake. However, China paused approval due to tariffs complicating negotiations. Do you think China's being spiteful or acting crazy?
I mean, it's always going to be tough when we're negotiating with China. The question is, how important is TikTok to us? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. And if it is of large importance, why is it of large importance? Is it because we are transferring CCP surveillance to three-letter agency US surveillance? Is it the algorithm? Is it national security safety? What exactly makes it valuable? Is it, rubbing shoulders? Is it, rubbing shoulders with the technocrats? Is it, you know, um, bringing jobs to the U.S.? I'm not exactly sure. It's just questions I love, some of the experts to answer. In regard to the tariffs, if this is going to bring, help bring some alleviation to the trade war with China, then I'm here for it. I'm here for it. All chips are on the table, and let's get down to business. And if the TikTok situation, helps us come to the deal and find something that's going to help revive the U.S. economy, I'm here for it. I'm just not exactly sure what the plus or minuses are here. And is TikTok really worth it? I'm not sure.
So, when you're asking those questions, are you asking questions to the government, the people that want to buy the application? Because some of those questions I think are valid from different point of views and different parties. Like as a
Yeah.
consumer or as a person that has a TikTok account that makes money off of TikTok account selling their products, or as a consumer, a lot of the products on TikTok are very inexpensive. They're cheap. So it really depends who you ask that question. People, last time that it got shut down were crying because that is like their only source of revenue. So TikTok will be important to them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about the grifters. Screw them. I'm more concerned with the big business, big picture. How is
Okay.
this going to help the greater United States? Not the, every little day person, but is this
Because the
going to drive?
greater United States is the important piece here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about the
No,
nation. What's going to be good for the nation is going to be good for us. Trickle
what
down
is
economics, et cetera, et cetera.
what is going to be good for the goose is going to be good for the gander.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what to make of this, but there are some advantages to having TikTok is a propaganda machine. So we do want to have control of our propaganda machines. And that's what I'm saying. Like TikTok there is a lot of different things. It's a lot of different things. Surveillance, propaganda, commerce, um, you know, it's just a lot there. So um and then there's like the integration, right? There's so much integration. Like, are we integrating this with Amazon? Amazon's putting rockets in space next week. Like what is the because Zuckerberg, some people believe that Zuckerberg is running this. There's a bunch of companies trying to unleash stable coins. Is this going to be a situation where TikTok has its own stable coin and that's
I
going
mean,
to give
you're saying rockets into space. Does space even exist? Do we even really have a space here? And have, we ever landed on the moon? Were people stuck in space and now they're back into down Earth? I mean, who
well,
knows,
we have been to the
We're
moon, but
probably in a simulation.
the moon people told us not to come back.
But why is that? If we've been to the moon,
Mhm.
Why haven't we been back with all this technology that we have?
Because the moon people told us not to come back.
What moon people?
The people that live on the moon.
Says who? Where's the evidence?
You don't know this?
No.
There is a civilization on the moon. Okay. And in some messaging, they said, don't bring your dusty ghetto ass back to the moon.
I
So
don't know
that's
if to
why we
take you
have not been back.
seriously or
Look it up. Look it up. I'm telling you. Ask Grok, ask ChatGPT, ask the Google demons, ask anybody who's ever looked into the subject matter. There are stories and rumors of a group of people, a tribe of people that live on the moon that told us, because like you said, common sense says if we've been to the moon, how come we have not gone back? And why there's so many failed moon missions? China tried to land on the moon. Was it last year, the year before? Mission failed. Why?
because it is all a simulation and it's not real. People, they just created a set somewhere out in the desert or wherever, like in Hollywood, and made it seem like we did land on the moon. It's like, and then we planted a flag and we took a picture. Like, how was that even possible? Or did the little alien in the moon take a picture of our astronaut?
So that's the fake moon landing. There's a real moon landing, there's a fake moon landing, and the real moon landing has not been publicized. So they staged one.
So this is your conspiracy theory.
Correct.
Okay. So then I will invite you on Sunday. We are having a conspiracy theory show at 7 Eastern Standard Time, Tammy and I, and a group of other people. And actually, we're talking about the moon landing because it never happened.
Okay. I'm there. Where are you doing this on X Spaces or?
On X, yes. So I need to create the link. I'll create the link tonight, send it to you, Landy, Tammy, and we're going to do a whole bunch of chitter chatter in regards to the moon landing. And I think they would be very interested in hearing your theory that you just presented right now
Okay.
about, you know, people living on the moon. I'm like, okay. And I am definitely going to ask chat gpt or do some research, but on that note, I will go ahead and continue with the news, and then we are going to talk tariffs after we give you guys a recap of today's news. Man, SEC has finally come to their senses. Hotep. The SEC has clarified that stablecoins fully backed by fiat reserves and maintaining a 1 of 1 redemption ratio with the US dollar are not considered securities. These stablecoins must be backed by physical fiat or low risk liquid assets, and the reserves cannot be used for investment or speculation. Issuers are also prohibited from offering yield or profit to token holders. Interesting. I think everybody wants us to talk about tariffs. So let me rush through this. Is
This is an important topic.
is a recession closer than we think? Ooh, I'm going to ask you that question too when we're talking about tariffs. JP Morgan has raised its forecast for a US recession by the end of 2025 from 40% to 60%, citing President Donald Trump's recently announced tariffs as a major risk to global economy. Say goodbye to the IRS. The IRS has laid off around 20,000 employees as part of a broader federal downsizing led by the Department of Government Efficiency. The IRS Office of Civil Rights and Compliance was also significantly reduced, with 75% of its staff cut. These actions align with President Trump's executive orders to reduce government size and spending. Bitcoin is here to stay. And if you don't believe so, and if you're crying about it, then leave to the moon with all the other people to the moon if you can get there. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent states that Bitcoin is here to stay, officially solidifying its role as a store of value. It's time to fire up those Lambos again. Vroom, vroom. Oil prices have dropped to their lowest level in 4 years. So now you can go on the streets and ride, and I can go pick you up because now I got money to pay for my gas. Hotep.
Oil prices are down.
They are down.
OPEC started drilling. I think they're like 3x their drilling.
So oil is down. Gas prices. Are we going to see gas prices go
That's
down?
probably going to be the result. Yeah, usually when oil prices go down, gas prices go down. That's usually how that works. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But let's talk about something. Let's talk about
Yes.
stable coins.
Okay. So
What take do you want on stable coins? Do you want the safe take or do you want the?
I want the Hotep take.
I don't know if you want the Hotep take.
Oh, give it to me, Hotep way.
Do you know what the alternative name for a stable coin is?
No, I do not.
Do you have access to Google right now?
I do.
Can you look something up?
I can look you up. Yes.
Okay. I want you to type in the term synthetic CBDC and tell me what pops up.
Okay.
Synthetic CBDC. Tell me what it says on your screen when you see it.
Central bank digital currencies foundational principles. Synthetic central bank digital currency.
Mm-hmm.
A breakdown of different CBDC models, stable coins, central bank digital
Stop right there.
currencies.
Did you say stablecoin?
Yes.
Why does it say stablecoin? What does it say? You're starting to come in clearer too. I'm starting to see your pretty face.
Thank you. Stablecoins, central bank digital currencies, and cross border payments, a new look at the international monetary system. And this was from 2019.
Oh, wow. 2019. So basically, what you're saying is that a stable coin is synonymous with a synthetic CBDC.
Okay, are we going to go down a rabbit hole? Because wait here.
We can stop right there. We can stop right there. So Trump passed a law that said we're going to ban CBDCs. And at the same time says we are going to promote stable coins. Well, I'm here to tell you that the Richmond Federal Reserve has already stated that they'd prefer the stable coin over a CBDC, which they also call a synthetic CBDC.
Wait.
So what we've gone from, instead of having a centralized CBDC, we have a decentralized CBDC, because anybody between a bank, an FSP, or even a regular corporation, according to the recent stablecoin House bill, can issue a stablecoin, which obviously have smart contract capabilities, which allow things like geofencing.
This is very interesting. I was trying to read what this guy was writing, his remarks about this, while you were trying to explain that. I mean, in my head, I'm.
So we can celebrate the stable coin. That's one way to go about this. We can act like this is great for adoption. I mean, I can act if you need me to. We can act and pretend as if this is a good thing.
Okay, so you're telling me that this is not a good thing.
I didn't say that. You said that.
You said it, but you thought it. Are we gonna do that?
I didn't think anything. All I said was it's synonymous with a synthetic CBDC. And all I'm saying is that I can act. We can pretend like this is good.
I mean, okay, so my question is synthetic CBDC and stablecoin. My
Yes.
understanding, based on what you said, they seem similar. Are they similar? Are they not? Or are they just like overlapping in the type, in the design?
Another name for a stablecoin, meaning they are synonymous, identical. A stablecoin is also referred to as a synthetic CBDC because the stablecoin is 100% backed by US dollars
Okay,
via
so my under
liquidity. Go ahead.
so my understanding, a stable coin is pegged to the value of a fiat currency, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Or it doesn't have to be. You can you got PAX. PAX is pegged to the gold, but in our case it's going to be pegged to the USD.
And CBD, okay, so I'm going to remove the word synthetic because I need to study that a little bit more. But CBDC, isn't that
Mhm.
typically backed by central bank reserves?
Yes, in a way.
So then how are they
Technically, a
synonymous?
CBDC would be issued by the central bank.
Okay.
So, yes, it's
By or financial,
backed by
okay.
reserves, but the central bank creates the reserves. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole we'd have to go down. Um, so in this case,
But and
synthetic
then
CBDC would be
stablecoin is backed by fiat, crypto, a combo,
mostly
whatever. Okay.
mostly treasury bonds. You buy the treasury bonds. That's how the Federal Reserve creates liquidity in the market. When the Federal Reserve wants to perform something called QE, basically what they do is they buy treasury bonds. It's an exchange with our government. We are going to create money out of thin air and then use that fake, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Use that created money to purchase United States Treasury bonds. Now, the money that was created out of thin air is being transferred for Treasury bonds. Now, ask me who is on the hook for Treasury bonds?
Who is on the hook?
You and me, the taxpayer. Treasury bonds are backed by US taxpayer dollars. So we are trading our labor for money created out of thin air. And then what they're going to do is going to create more magic money, aka called the stable coin. And you can just begin to use your imagination as to where this thing could go. Not to mention that the Democrats called for an amendment in the stablecoin legislation that basically said these people wouldn't be able to be bailed out if an institution were to create a stablecoin. They could not be bailed out. Republicans have denied that. Others have denied that. It's pretty much bipartisan, and said no, there is possibility of a bailout. So once again, you can use your imagination and figure out where we are headed as a nation in regard to money.
I already have a wild guess, but my thesis is more thesis of what I believe in, biblical, and
Mhm.
it's program, it's in the book of life in my opinion. So I mean, I already know where we're destined.
Yeah, yeah. Landy knows. Shout out to Landy.
Oh crap. Holy moly ravioli. But let's go ahead and go into the next topic. I think we might come back on. And if we have not enough time, I know Landy loves to pop up here. But
It just
Landy's the
comes back
man.
to the fact that
Landy's
Democrats
a
don't
man.
understand economics. Because if you look at the moves that Trump is making right now, these are great economic recovery moves. So if you study economics, you know something about the Marshall-Lerner principle. And basically what you got to do is you got to decrease the value of your currency and create a surplus in trade. And in that way, you start to create some economic recovery. So because these guys don't understand economics, They're mad.
You know what's very interesting? After you said that, we read comments, we go and read comments, etc. And there was a lot of people that was saying like negative things. But you know what the problem is with Americans
Mm,
is that a lot of Americans, you are sheep, you're followers, and you're gullible, and you believe everything that people say, the government say, and you don't go and do your due diligence to understand economics or understand what people are saying before you come at them. And I didn't know about the Marshall learner principle. And I was like, you know what? Let me go and research it and explain it to me in simple terms because I don't know what the F you are even saying for me to try to understand what you said. And it makes so much sense.
mm. Yeah. So I think I should tell you how I stumbled upon this. I am a student of economics. I am not an expert. I am a student. So
Mhm.
basically, what happens is I'm studying economics and I have to decipher every single sentence. So I usually take those sentences line by line and pop it into the AI and tell the AI, explain this to me. And I just start asking the AI questions and trying to understand the logic behind some of these moves. So
Mhm.
I think with this situation, I think I was researching tariffs around World War II time period and Smoot Hawley and all of that stuff. And then the AI, I asked why would a country want to devalue its currency? And the
Mhm.
AI said, well, there's this thing called Marshall Learner Principle. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is really freaking interesting. But it just comes back to the fact that I'm a geek and I just spend my time researching.
So America, where are we with our currency? Are we weak? Are we strong?
The Dixie's down. I don't know if you can pull up the Dixie chart, but you can go on TradingView and pull up the Dixie chart. It's basically an index that measures the dollar against, I think, a bundle of six other currencies. So it tells you the strength of the USD. And if you take a look at it, I don't know if you can look at like the 1 month chart. If you look at the one
Mhm.
month chart, you'll see the Dixie is down, I don't know, like 10 points or something like that last time I checked. So, that's when and then when you add the tariffs in, I was like, wait a second, this is the Marshall Learner Principle because you decrease the value of your currency, and at the same time, you want to create a trade surplus because that's what we've been complaining about. We're talking about we don't produce enough as a country. We're buying too much from other countries. So how do we create a trade surplus? And I figured, maybe that's what the economists behind the Trump admin are trying to do here. Now, there's also the concept of, Trump's trying to lower interest rates so that, we can refinance our debt. I think that's bullshit personally, but there could be a modicum of truth there. What I really think is the Federal Reserve, um, is that the Dixie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to the 1 month chart. Is that it? Yeah. So
Yeah, that's the 1
you can
month.
see. Yeah, so you can see the Dixie there. It's um had a little bit of a crishy crash, right? So when we take a look at
I want to see what the 5 year was.
yeah, take a look at the 5 year. See what the 5 year looks like. Pretty strong. Pretty strong over 5 years. Still the world reserve currency. It's not going anywhere. It's not like we're talking about a crashing the dollar to not being the world reserve currency. Yeah, nice year to date chart there. Yeah, yeah. Go to the year to date. Go to the year to date. That's probably the most accurate because that's when Trump comes into office, right?
Mhm.
In February. So if we look right there, February, we see like that's like the beginning of the collapse. So, um, yeah, euro. Yeah, yeah. There we go. Landy just put it in the chat against a basket of six currencies. Yeah, yeah. So that's the Dixie, right? So I'm thinking about the tariffs, and I'm like, we're definitely trying to create a trade surplus. The thing is, when you make your currency cheaper against other currencies, that makes um, goods cheaper in other currencies. which means that we actually might be more competitive in foreign markets, which would increase our exports, which is what we want. You don't want a country that takes in, and I don't know if you've ever played any of these like civilization games, but you don't want to import more than you export. It's not a good look. You'd like to export more than you import, and that's going to be strong for your economy. So that's what Trump's worried about. Trump's worried about trade deficit. He's worried about production and manufacturing, and we're starting to see reshoring of production and manufacturing. Honda, Taiwan Semiconductors, and a bunch of other industries as well.
And are we still the number one country for imports? Because we're number two behind China for exports.
That's a good question. I don't know. I have no clue. I would guess that that's probably accurate. I never thought about it.
And I understand why. Do you think that we are? I asked Landy this the other day. Do you think we are moving possibly into a recession, a mini recession? While Trump tries to get all this tariff situation in order.
Well, a recession would be back to back quarters of negative GDP growth. So it's possible. The issue is I'm not seeing evidence of it. The jobs report just came out today. Maybe that will be revised, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics said we were like we beat Wall Street expectations by like 68% or something like that. It was 220,000, and I think they projected 140,000, something to that effect. So we were beating job expectations. Unemployment edged just slightly higher. So I'm not seeing signs of it, but again, economics is something that several months ago, is what we're seeing decisions from months ago today, right? So it's really hard to tell. If I had to take a guess, I would say no.
No.
I would say no.
So Hotep, do you think that the U.S. was getting ripped off by other countries?
Well, let me say this. Why? So who said this? Jerome Powell? Was it Jerome Powell or was it? No, it was J.P. Morgan Chase, right? That said we were headed for a recession, 68% chance, or 65%. Who was it? J.P. Morgan Chase, right?
J.P. Morgan Chase.
All right. So
by the end of the year.
All right. I shouldn't be saying this. I'm oh my God, I'm going straight red pill today. So how do I say this in a safe way so the black vans don't pull up at your house? JP Morgan is responsible for the creation of the Federal Reserve at Jekyll Island. Okay. So the number one bank in America is JP Morgan Chase, maybe even the world. JP Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon, he makes decisions, for the Trump admin, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to think about it like this. If you're the guy or the entity running the Federal Reserve and you owe the United States government, you owe the U.S. Treasury $200 billion, and you want to make it cheaper to repay that, what you'll do is you'll create fear in the market. So it's like legal market manipulation where they try to create fear. The problem is it's not working. We just saw what was it? $9.7 billion of retail bought stocks yesterday. And it was like the greatest high since, I don't know, it was a few years back or something like that. Like retail was like, oh, buy the dip. So nobody's afraid, which is why I'm like, where is this recession talk coming from? And it's just it could just be rhetoric trying to trigger fear.
It is instilling fear because it seems like everything is collapsing. The market's going to shit. And, at this point, it seems like Trump is at fault for what's currently happening to to the market. And what people don't understand is that we were already in a shitty position, with previous administrations.
I think we
And
were worse off before. Yeah.
we were. And my question to you and us getting to the situation that we are in right now and what Trump is doing and he's cleaning house, who do you think is responsible for this and for us being at the point that we are with America, the economy?
I think Jamie Dimon's calling the shots.
Who's
Just a
Jamie
guess.
Dimon?
Who's Jamie Dimon? He's like head of the banking Illuminati.
So is JP Morgan Chase owned by BlackRock as well? Or is BlackRock really just a decoy for the true family that owns the world that are
BlackRock.
kind of like in the secret society that nobody knows?
BlackRock's just a holding company. BlackRock is not this. Are they innocent? No. But everybody's like, oh, BlackRock. It's like, dude, if you're in charge of trillions of dollars worth of capital, you're going to buy everything too. They're like, oh, BlackRock owns this. Well,
So
of
then,
course.
is this family American then, or they're not?
BlackRock,
Because
I believe BlackRock's domestic, and it's not owned by a family. It's owned by several corporations. There's like several shareholders in BlackRock.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
so
I
it's
mean,
not like
if they allowed for us to economically get to this point, especially with the tariffs, I mean, in essence, it seems like America was screwing us Americans. At the end of the day, America was being too nice, and now Trump is here to clean up the shitstorm that has been caused, by. uh, I had an understanding that it was previous administrations, that got us into this shitty place, like when President Bill Clinton, created the World Trade Organization,
now.
and or and this is what I was telling David yesterday too, um or when freaking the North American Free Trade Agreement that was negotiated by Bush and signed in to pass by Bill Clinton, which it resulted in drop of tariffs. But the thing is that while they were putting all these stuff into place, signing all these deals and shit, at the end of the day we were still getting the end of the stick, the short end of the stick, because other countries were repping the benefits, etc., we weren't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're playing a different game. And the thing is too, like they're also in competition with each other. There is still going to be men are going to always be competing, right? No matter how high you go up, there's still going to be some level of competition. So these guys are still competing with each other. It's not like they're sitting around and just completely cooperating to demoralize us. But I wrote a book called The Patriot Report, and it's basically a research paper on the history of central banking. And it's a type of situation where recessions and panics are coerced into happening, or I'm sorry, manipulated into happening so that a bunch of people can buy a lot of things cheap. So that's why, as retail, you have to be savvy. You have to, during bull markets, you got to start stacking cash. And during the bear market that we're in now, you need to start buying the equities. I hadn't bought stocks probably since last September. I started just stacking cash, waiting for this moment. But that's because, I studied Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. And a lot of people just aren't savvy like that. They just don't understand these ups and downs, ebbs and flows of markets and, the trends that they come, right? So, you look at the stock market right now. Stock market is not that bad. We gotta act like we've been through worse. This country has been through way worse stock conditions. Stock was down today and crypto was up. So it's just like, wait, what's going on here? So there is money moving into places. But when we look at the tariffs, right, coming back to the tariffs, and this is why I say recession doesn't seem feasible. Vietnam has already come to the table. Nike stock rebounded a little bit today because Vietnam said they're ready to move tariffs to zero. mostly because they can't afford not to sell us Nikes. You know, a lot of these countries depend on America.
Yeah.
They depend on us. The stuff we depend on them for are not necessities. They're luxuries. Right? But the luxuries that they export are necessary for them to survive. We can buy shoes from anybody. We don't have to buy shoes from Nike or anybody else who's manufacturing in Vietnam. Shoes, in fact, aren't even hard to manufacture. So with these countries coming to the table, China eventually coming to the table, I think we're going to see a lot of shifts to little by little. I think we're going to see a lot of shifts to a better economy for America. But
Why do you
right now, I
think
think it's just a shakedown.
why do you think China is being such a hard ass, with the bullshit that they just pulled today?
China's going through a recession them damn selves. They have been for a while now. But China is a manufacturing and production powerhouse.
Mhm.
So, like 90% of the goods you get from Walmart come from China.
And they're cheap and inexpensive. So do you think if we move that manufacturing and production here to the United States of America, you don't
We
think that that product is going to get more expensive for the consumers here?
absolutely it will. Absolutely it will. And it's only because we have minimum wage laws. If we got rid of minimum wage laws, we'd be a capitalist powerhouse.
So then we would be paying people shit to produce product. If we eliminate minimum wage. Minimum wage is, doesn't it help people so
No,
there aren't any abusive practices and you're not paying them $5 to
no,
create or do something. You don't think that's a
no,
little bit unfair to
no, no.
so you're okay paying somebody $3, $5,
Yes,
to manufacture. Why is that?
yes. You see, everybody looks at minimum wage from a dollar perspective. Okay. Let's take a look at minimum wage now. When you think of a minimum wage job, what do you think of? Just as an example, when you think of a minimum wage worker, what corporations do you think of? What jobs do you think of?
Fast food places,
Okay. Boom.
cleaning services, janitorial.
Okay. So we're talking about our low skill jobs. You are being paid too much for low skill jobs. So I'm paying you
So you're saying
$12
you're
an hour.
paying 12. So to you, flipping a burger, paying somebody $12 to flip a burger is a lot.
It's too much.
So what would you pay somebody to flip a burger?
I can't decide that. The market has to decide that. And that's the issue with socialist price controls.
So then do you
We
think
don't know. Go ahead.
so if you eliminate minimum wage,
Mhm.
you pay somebody $6 to flip a burger, then is that going to also drive the prices of these meals down?
Bingo. You
And
notice
then
see how things become more affordable? So you
and
don't
now
have to earn
me
as
that I'm
much.
okay, so you don't have to earn it. Okay. But then you keep those people poor all the time, right? So then the cost
But
of
they can
living for them.
afford more goods and services because everything's cheaper. Minimum wage actually increases inflation. People don't think about that. Minimum wage adds to the tax of inflation. We're putting money into the market that should not be there. People should be paid what they're worth. And some people are not worth $12 an hour. But here's the bigger issue. If you are paid minimum wage for a low skill job, right?
Mhm.
What if you were paid minimum wage for a high skill job? You're not looking at the money. What you're looking at is the experience and the skill. This is why I always, we talk about this with kids. When you go get a job, don't look at the salary. Look at what you are going to learn. Look at the skills you get to pick up. This same situation happened in the Tokugawa era in Japan. We had many people after Europe brought their industrial revolution and they brought the railroads to Japan. What you had was a class of people who, without price controls, were going into manufacturing and production, then leaving manufacturing and production and taking those skills and that experience and starting their own production and manufacturing facilities, earning way more than they used to. When you install something like minimum wage, what you strip from people is not money, but experience. Because a mechanic down the street could say, I'd love to hire you, but I can't afford to hire you. But if I could hire you for $6 an hour or $7 an hour, and I didn't have all these labor laws, you could actually come in and get some real experience. And now you're actually worth something to the economy, to yourself, to the mechanic shop that you work for. Minimum wage also has a racist past. Minimum wage is literally racist. Minimum wage didn't appear here because...
How is it racist?
Okay, let's go into the work of Walter E. Williams. Walter E. Williams talks about apartheid South Africa and how the laborers, the black laborers in South Africa had more experience than the white laborers, and they were pricing them out of the market. So what they did was they put price controls in place so that you couldn't compete based upon price. They did the same thing in the Jim Crow South. If you look up minimum wage racist laws, you'll find that minimum wage was installed in South Africa and the South in American United States to price black people out of the market so they couldn't compete based upon price because people were hiring black people at a lower rate and black people were getting those jobs and white men were unemployed.
But why were they unemployed? Because they didn't want to work, or just
because they didn't want to work for the wage. They wouldn't compete at the lower wage. If I say, yo, I can get this job done for $5 and you're like, yo, I want it for $6, the guy's going to say, well, this black guy right here could do it for $5. So I'm going to hire him. And they said, no, we have to put price controls in place so you can't compete based upon wage. So they raised the minimum wage.
Interesting. I am definitely going to go and research that. That's a new for me. You know, I think you kind of gave me a different perspective because the mentality that I had or what I thought is minimum wage, you know, especially when I was part of the corporate and in the workforce, I never made minimum wage. I always made a lot more based on my skill set, but I always felt bad for the people. And I was like, okay, minimum wage is a good thing for the people. But now speaking with you and having a broader understanding of what it does to the economy. And that's one of the things is that we don't educate ourselves on what certain things are going to do. And now that I am in media, now that we're learning about the terrorists, we're learning about the economy, it's very eye-opening how it is a domino effect of certain pieces that go into a puzzle, X, Y, and Z, and then boom, here we are. And learning how, in my opinion, you know, previous administrations, you know, previous decades, how they were leading us to a place in America where, yeah, we're so much in debt, you know, and they wanted to continue to keep us hostage to poverty.
And minimum wage keeps you strapped to poverty, not only poverty of pockets, but poverty of mind. Mm-hmm. Thomas Sowell talks about the decrease in youth labor. If you notice now, who has the low skilled jobs? Back in my day, you know, when you had a cashier or somebody flipping burgers at Burger King or a cashier at Walmart, even during the 90s, that was a teenager's job. Now you got old folks working those jobs.
And it depends on state because Texas does have a lot of older, mature people working at fast food restaurants. Here in Arizona, it was so surprising when I first moved here, and I was like, "Okay, why are they do take a little bit longer, they move slower," and I was like, "Well, why do they move so slow?" And then I started getting off the car just, to get off the car to be more active, and I would walk in and I was like, wow, the restaurants were being ran by teenagers. You see in a lot of the fast food restaurants here, nothing but teenagers.
That's good. That's good health for Texas. That's a
No,
good
in
sign.
Arizona, in
I'm
Arizona, in
sorry,
Texas,
Arizona.
yeah,
That's a
in Texas,
good
you
sign.
still have like the old people.
Right. Yeah, that's a good sign. Out here in the East Coast, it's all old people. You got, I mean, I wouldn't say there's not, I've seen some youth. I've seen some youth in the fast food industry, but Walmart, Target, I'm starting to see ladies 70 years old, working this job. And it's just like, why are you, how come you weren't able to secure retirement by now? So, you'll see even when we talk about the issue with black boys, and you say, oh, black boys are so violent. Well, black youth labor employment is way down. A lot of that has to do with socialist price controls and socialist regulations. But again, the thing you strip away from the youth is experience. Allow them to work for $2 an hour, $3 an hour. They don't have bills. See, the thing is, if you allow a kid to go work at the mechanic shop, 16 years old, work on planes, whatever it is, right? And he gets that experience. He can now take that same experience and go to Boeing or Honda or Jiffy Lube. But if you don't allow him to get that experience because he can't work for cheap, because he can just work under somebody who's like, yo, I can't pay you much. And it allows that person who can hire more people now to increase his production and lower his rates. So with minimum wage, you do much more damage to the economy and you do way more damage to poor people. And that's part of the design. You see, the Democrats can't be the party of the poor if there is no poor. So they'll pretend as if their policies are for the poor. Oh, we've got to get you paid more. When in practice, their economic practices create more poor people. And the more poor people, the more people who vote for Democrats. And that's why the Democrats push these socialist policies. We don't want price controls. We want laissez-faire. Let the market decide. We don't even know what the real minimum wage could be. It could be higher than what it is now. The entire country could look completely different.
And it's so bad, it doesn't even match the cost of living right now.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It is so bad. Now, do you think that tariffs are a good thing? No,
No.
you know what? Let's go with the name. You said no?
No.
Really? I thought that you would actually think that tariffs is okay. Why do you think tariffs are not a good thing?
Because that's not how economics works. There is no good or bad. This is what's wrong with people. Like when they look at tariffs, they go, oh, these are good. They are bad. Mm-hmm. Well, in what sense? In order to ask a question like that, you first have to say, what's your goal? Then I can tell you if it's good or bad. But if you ask me, are tariffs good or bad? If you say, are tariffs good? I'm going to say no. If you ask me, are tariffs bad? I'm going to say no, mostly because I don't know what your goals are. What are you trying to do with your tariffs?
And in the case of Trump, yeah.
In Trump's case, his goal is reshore manufacturing and production to create a trade surplus. So in that case, maybe tariffs are good, but we can't say for certain right now. Only thing we can say is that manufacturing's coming back.
Why can't we say for certain right now?
Because we have to see the effects of his decisions.
I mean, but understanding right now, okay, so in speaking
and the other thing is we don't know how long he's going to keep the tariffs on for. You know, like Thomas Sowell has an interview coming out, I believe on April 7th, where he quotes the Smoot Hawley, and he says he doesn't like the Trump tariffs, but he also says it could be good, right? He says, but it depends on how long you keep the tariffs on. So that's another question. How long are we going to keep the tariffs on? Is it going to be short? Are we going to turn them on and off? You know, like how is it going to be for this country, that country, all countries, blanket? And the other thing is our tariffs aren't blanket tariffs. There are a bunch of rare minerals that are exempt from tariffs. Gold is exempt from tariffs. Semiconductors are exempt from tariffs, and a bunch of other goods.
But the goods that people consume are not exempt. And at the end of the day, isn't the consumer that pays for those tariffs the business owners that pay for those tariffs? Not the
What?
US, not America, or reverse, vice versa.
Well, that's the good news. If these are consumable products, particularly, let's say, agriculture, what you're now saying is that our farmers get that money, which increases agricultural production in America. And that's what you want. You don't want to be dependent on
And you're
foreign
saying
nations
that's
food.
for them, and that's for them growing it here. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So what if it's expensive to export?
It's going to be expensive to export if they have tariffs on us. But that's the whole point of the tariff war, is to get them to lower their tariffs.
And what if other countries, because the tariffs are so high and they're not buying it, won't that slow down our economy?
Well, firstly, we have to understand that our tariffs are reciprocal tariffs, meaning that other countries have not increased their tariffs. This is the tariffs we've been paying. We are playing the reciprocal game to get them to lower the taxes so that our exports become cheaper. That's the other part a lot of people aren't mentioning. These are reciprocal tariffs. These other countries, some of them got 50%, 60%. And we like, yo, you got tariffs on us, then we going to tariff you back until you cool out. And some countries are saying, yo, all right, we going to cool out then. Vietnam is ready to go to 0% tariffs. This is according to the conversation Trump had yesterday with Lohan or something like Lohan, Broham, something like that.
That is so wild that other countries, it's like, okay, if he's reciprocating with tariffs, and then it still baffles me that China is the only one that's like, you know what, F you, I'm going to go up
They
again.
got a bargaining chip. They have power. China has, following Mao, okay? China was an agrarian society, okay? And then they quickly moved to production. And one of their primary exports, they took a look at the landscape and said, what is it that everybody in this world uses? And it was shoes. And they became a production and manufacturing powerhouse and started exporting shit cheap. The difference between China and America is China doesn't have minimum wage laws. So that means they can produce things cheaper.
I mean,
that's going to make them powerful.
But don't other countries, third world countries, also are the same as China, where they don't have minimum wage?
Yeah, but they don't have the production powerhouse China has. China has built up a pretty decent military, and they have, I would say, some pretty successful quasi communism. Pretty successful. It's a mixed economy, but I'm a fan of capitalism, and I'm a fan of fascism, and I'm a fan of communism. I love all that shit. It's very interesting to me. And they've made a ton of mistakes. Like I said, they're in a recession right now. They completely just destroy their own currency. But at the end of the day, they had their production powerhouse. And they produce things cheap.
No minimum wage. And do they have age limit?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know.
So what you're trying to tell me, or what you're saying, is like they have slave workers, and if we remove minimum wage here in America, then we can become a country where we can create a powerhouse manufacturing plant and have slave workers and go back to slavery type of era.
But that's binary thinking, right? Like, you can remove minimum wage laws and still keep some best practices, some good
Okay.
regulations, right? Like there should be air conditioning in your facilities, right? I don't have a problem with those type of regulations. Like treat people fucking decent, right? Don't overwork
Enslave Okay,
people.
so enslave them, but treat them nice.
Why are you saying enslave? Just because they work for cheaper prices?
And,
All right,
all
so
crazy
let's do a hypothetical
and
situation, right?
crazy hours and, maybe
Let
they don't
let's
take any breaks or lunch or
let's talk about this. If
okay.
you take a look at something like Silicon Valley, right?
Mhm.
Silicon Valley is highly competitive. People jump from startup to startup all the time. Why do they jump from one startup to another? Well, this startup lets me work from home. This startup, we drink beer in the office. This startup, you know, uh, you know, has a better culture, better environment. We play tennis outside on the Google campus, right? So when we're dealing with capitalism, what we're dealing with is competition of not only the products and services that we sell to people, but competition in labor. So if you have production facility A, production facility B, and
Mhm.
production facility A doesn't pay well and doesn't treat you well, those people are going to seek employment somewhere else.
Right.
And this company is going to say, okay, we'll take you. We treat people better. Then the next company C, is going to say, well, we do what they do, but we have more perks. And you let competition drive up the quality of life at a job. For example, um, Walter Williams uses this example. He said, he was in New York City, took a taxi, and he wanted to understand the difference in prices to get a license in New York City as opposed to Washington, D.C. And he said when he got to Washington, D.C., he noticed that the taxi service was way better. It was like almost white glove service. The cars were cleaner, the people were nicer. And what he realized was it was higher competition. With higher competition comes better products and services. So the
Mhm.
same thing would happen for employees. And that's why I said we don't know what the minimum wage is, because if you let the market dictate, depending on what market you're in, let's say production of shoes, the minimum wage might be fairly good compared to the rest of the market and how much it costs to survive, et cetera, et cetera. We don't know these answers because we live in a socialist country.
So
Everything
you
around us is controlled by socialist price controls. So we don't know what life is like without social controls, without price controls. So the first thing we think is, oh, you want to be slavery. It's like, no, that's not how this goes. Google does this? Yeah, Google does this.
Oh,
Oh, Landy makes a good point. We invested in China's manufacturing. Our corps built it all in the beginning. That is very true. The West did build up China. That is true. The West built up a lot of these. The West built up Japan. The West built half the world. Now that I think about it.
America did all this, and then now we're crying wolf trying to get out of this shit.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like a lot of leaders in the past, they thought that by opening up what the deals and the treaties, whatever they did, that they would create a fairer world in the long run, but in the short run, they screwed everything up and America took
Well,
a lot of hits, especially in the heartland.
a lot of it was by accident. Like building up
But
manufacturing
how is that by accident?
because it's cultural diffusion, right? Like you believe that
So
these people
America
will be.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand how it's by accident. So
Mhm.
we're trying to save a buck. We're trying to make money.
Mhm.
So people that live in America, Americans, government, these companies, these entities, I'm not saying Nike, whatever, is like, you know what, it'll be cheaper for us to mass produce in this country. So let's go ahead and go build a manufacturing plant in China, Taiwan, Mexico, wherever. And then they build it and then they hire people there. And, it's like, okay, it's very cheap labor to create the products and then sell them very expensive here. Is that what you're trying to say about
Uh,
happen by accident?
it's more about extraction of resources and cultural diffusion. So, I tweeted this the other day, and Scott Adams talked about it. But in order for an empire to thrive, it has to expand. And there are four basic types of expansion. You got population expansion, geographical expansion, knowledge expansion, and production expansion. So what you mentioned was, going in China and creating this expansion of production, right? And that is part of it. Um, a lot of it has to do with the fact that these places have untapped resources, and Europe's not exactly resource rich. Okay. Which is why they have to go into Africa or Japan or South America or Haiti, right? So the fact that Europe, the UK, et cetera, is not exactly mineral rich,
Mhm.
and they ain't trying to pay fair price for it. So they just gonna come kick your ass and take that shit. Unfortunately, after they kick your ass, they're gonna bring, like, they introduced the railroad to Japan, right?
Mhm.
So they have to introduce you to certain things. You had consultants from the UK coming down, and it's really a form of colonialism, because you had the Japanese began learning and even dressing European. In fact, in Japan, to dress like Japanese was like looked down upon, and dressing like the Portuguese was like considered to be modern and up to date. So that's part of the cultural diffusion. That's part of the colonialism that's happening. And along with that, you have trade routes being opened up, and the ports being uh, um, taken over. So you had port deals that were made in Japan, right? So it says basically, all right, you guys got these ports, and the Portuguese have this port, Spain has this port. There were port deals, and you know how important it is to have a port deal, because if you want to get something from point A to point B, and you're all the way in the UK, it's like, I don't want to go through a middleman. If I own this port, then it's just cheaper to transfer goods. So a lot of it was about, like I said, cultural diffusion, production, and just basic business practice of trying to, make business cheaper. So there's a lot of different things that or factors that go into why we invested in these places. But a lot of it, I would say, was necessity. It's very necessary for an empire to expand in order to survive. If it doesn't expand, it'll be expanded upon. If it doesn't expand, it'll expire.
So then if they're expanding into other countries because it's a lot cheaper and they can make more money,
Mhm.
and we're crying for them to come back to America, then isn't it going to be more expensive and there's a possibility for their businesses to go to shit? Because
Wait,
now
say
they're
that
going to
again.
have to. Okay, so if some of these businesses, they're expanding into other countries in order
Yeah,
for them to survive,
yeah.
because it's cheap labor,
Hmm.
it will cost a lot less for their
Correct.
products to be manufactured.
Right.
But then we're crying for them to bring them back to America, and it's going to cost more, the minimum wage, and isn't there a possibility that their freaking business will go to shit or will not survive because now the cost is going to be pricier because they're bringing it to America?
Well, that was some of the mistakes of the West, where, during that expansion into places like Japan and China, et cetera, um, you can't monitor all your territory. So you expand, and at some point you're like, wait a second, we haven't been paying attention to, some of our interior territories.
Mhm.
So you have to kind of like let go of some of the Japanese or some of the Chinese ports and say, hey, we got to focus on other areas. So it's growing pains. I mean, the Western Empire is in a modern era 300 years old, right? If you want to be generous, I mean, you can go back to like maybe 1400, but you don't get industrial revolution until about the 1800s. Agricultural revolutions like 1700s and industrial revolutions 1800s. So we're only talking like 300 years for an empire. So there are mistakes being made during the expansion period, and then you have to factor in the greed of bankers and how bankers don't have allegiances to borders. So there's that dynamic. It gets kind of convoluted once you separate uh, patriotism from capitalism. Because you can be a capitalist and a patriot, or you can just be a capitalist. And not all capitalists are patriots.
Interesting.
They're not going to do what's in the best interest for the nation. Like the Great Depression. What is it? The Panic of 18. It's a bunch of panics in 1800. I think it's a Panic 1812. Like all these things are at some point manipulated by bankers in order to basically
So then do you
move
think
people
that
out of, like, for example, one of the things that banks used to do during the mid to late 1800s is they would just call in their loans.
so then do you think that the bankers were the ones that were running the shit show when previous administration were negotiating tariffs and took probably bad deals?
Maybe I'd have to do some research on that. I don't know. I mean, the general conspiracy theorist is going to say the bankers do everything. I don't like operating like that. I like saying I've researched this and this is who's doing what. But from my research, I could not say bankers have made calls for tariffs. Maybe.
Because it's like previous administration that partook in tariff negotiations or implementation, whatever. Bill Clinton, Bush,
Reagan.
Obama, Trump. Who else?
Reagan.
Reagan,
Yeah.
Truman.
Yeah.
So do you think it was them, the political, or you think that maybe they were backed by very powerful people within the banking or the people that own the world?
Maybe. You'd have to go administration by administration. And frankly, I haven't done that research. I don't know. Could
I
be.
mean, we kind of speculate, right? Like Clinton administration, maybe they were being ran by other entities, maybe not even entities that
I
were here in
mean,
the US.
I mean, he has a cabinet. He has advisors. I mean, you think of somebody who, God rest his soul, Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger is one of those guys that used to send out that was an unofficial government member, right? You have a lot of these unofficial government members that world leaders depend on, U.S. leaders depend on for advice and negotiations, who are more experienced than them.
Mhm.
So it's not all like Henry Kissinger is not a banker, right? But there are several people in the world that have a particular set of skills that a president would lean upon. I don't think any of these presidents have ever made any real decisions.
You
I
think they're
think
just puppets and they're being ran by a puppet master?
I wouldn't call them puppets. I would say that they are decision makers surrounded by advisors, and the advisors control the information that they get. So if there's an option C, but option C isn't presented and you're operating off of option A and B, could be looked at like a puppet, but really those are the options that you were presented by your advisors. But
Mhm.
those advisors come from many different arenas in life. It could come from the military, could come from the financial sector, you know, wherever. Health, Fauci.
I have theories. I went down a rabbit hole. I don't think that I could say it here live, but I think I'm going to save it for our conspiracy theory Sundays
Okay.
spaces, about the banking industry. And the crazy thing of it, one day I did research and it just led me to a rabbit hole, institutions that are tied, intertwined. It was very interesting and wild. And then there was a video that I actually stumbled across on TikTok and I saved it. I should have downloaded it and it disappeared. And I could not find that video for the life of me.
Here's the thing. It's not a banker thing. It's a money thing. It's a producer thing. Like even in Japan, the daimyo, they were,
Mhm.
they answered, the merchant class held a tremendous amount of power over the daimyo, the samurai. I mean, the only person that was above the merchant class, really, like for example, the Tokugawa family, their reign ends. Mitsubishi's still here. The Mitsubishi family watched the rise and fall of the Tokugawa Empire. They watched the Tokugawa family rise and fall. And Mitsubishi is still here because Mitsubishi was always a merchant. So no matter who was in charge of their government, the government had to work with the Mitsubishi family. So
Hmm.
money, cash rules. Wu-Tang taught us, man, cash rules everything around you.
Money. Dollar bill, y'all.
Yeah. So if you control the money, I think Adam Weishaupt said, if you allow me to control the money, I care not who make your laws.
Then who really controls the money in America?
You're not gonna get me to say that today. I don't know. I don't know who. I
You
don't know.
thought it, you said it. You're like, I don't want the black bands to show up at my doorstep or yours. Come on.
I don't know who controls the money in America. I have no idea. Ask Trump. I don't know who controls it, man. Somebody controls it.
So, do you think Trump controls the money in America?
No, absolutely does not.
You think BlackRock controls money in
No,
America?
BlackRock doesn't. Y'all got to take BlackRock out your head, man.
Out of your you think the Illuminati?
I am the Illuminati.
No, you're not.
Illuminati means illuminated ones. It literally translates to the enlightened ones. So if you're an enlightened mind, you're a part of Illuminati.
Is
And
it the
that's
dark?
really no, it's a thing that people just know. Like the thing with the Illuminati is I'll run into people in the Illuminati and I'll do business with people in Illuminati,
I
but
thought if
they
you weren't in
know
the Illuminati, you couldn't say.
that's correct. You don't say it, you just know it. Now, I
Okay,
can say I'm in the Illuminati because I know I'm an enlightened one. People know I'm enlightened. Now, when other enlightened people see me and they
Mhm.
work with me, they know I'm enlightened and I know they're enlightened. And that's the only difference. There will always be 85% dumb, deaf, and blind.
Okay, so Tammy's saying that the deep state runs the money.
No. There is a deep state, but I don't think the deep state runs the money.
If you ever tell me offline, off camera, am I able to repeat it publicly? But I will never say that you told me.
Nope.
You know what?
Because everybody's watching now, they're gonna know it came from me when you say it. I'm like, oh, Hotep Jesus told her that.
Now I'm gonna go look at TikTok.
I already
always-
told you today who creates the money.
You did.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
Mm-hmm.
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 You know what? Before we leave,
Mm-hmm.
I know we were way past the hour, and I only asked you for 30 minutes, and then 30 minutes went to an hour, and now we're a little bit longer because these conversations are interesting. And this is what happens when you don't communicate as often. You know, like if we talked every day, we probably would not have anything to talk about. But there's a couple of
I can
things
go the
that
distance with you.
can you?
I can last.
Yeah, and thank you for deciding to come with me tonight on the
Anytime.
but Hotep, you love AI.
I don't.
I know I was sarcastically saying that, but what do you think of? We were talking about this the other day. Tammy, was I talking to you about this? But anywho, did you hear about the womb? The robotic womb. That they created an artificial womb where, originally it was supposed to be created for people that, or babies that were born prematurely. And instead of putting them in an incubator, they created this simulation like a mother's womb where they would put the baby there and, to help it feed the nutrients, grow, etc. But now there are so many images of that this is the place that we're moving to where it's working kind of similar to like artificial insemination. They're trying to recreate sperm and feed these eggs, etc., to grow artificial babies in a robot. And there was a simulation of this robot, with a stomach, and then and they were showing an image of the baby. So they're trying to
Where
play
you see this
God.
at?
Here, let me see if I can find it really quick.
That's creepy as shit. Okay. Now it's creepy because I was talking about this on my show today. I tend to cover AI and robotics, and we're gonna have a complete separation. Like, I don't know if people know this, but in the next 3 years, well, women already have sex with robots.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Most I would say there's a large portion of women that have been having sex with robots for several decades now. Many of you, like maybe half the population, get stimulation from some sort of contraption.
Are you talking about like
Yes.
dildos and things like that?
Yes. Vibrators. Vibrators is not a machine.
Everything is AI.
Okay, so you've already have yourself getting off to a machine. Okay, now you add some skin in a body. Who's turning that down? So in the next 3 years, you're going to see people popping up with artificial partners.
Would you do a robot?
If it looked like you. I need a Leslie bot. Give me a Leslie bot. I'll beat the cakes off that thing. Bang, 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 bang. Nah, I'm just playing.
No, I don't think you are. Look at this.
Introducing Ectolife, the world's first artificial womb facility, powered entirely by renewable energy. Ectolife allows infertile couple to conceive a baby and become the true biological parents of their own offspring. It's a perfect solution for women who had their uterus surgically removed due to cancer or other complications. With Ectolife, premature births and C-sections will be a thing of the past. Ectolife is designed to help countries that are suffering from severe population decline, including Japan, Bulgaria, South Korea, and many others. The facility features 75 highly equipped labs. Each state-of-the-art lab can accommodate up to 400 growth pods or artificial wombs. Every pod is designed to replicate the exact conditions that exist inside the mother's uterus. A single building can incubate up to 30,000 lab-grown babies per year. Ectolife allows your baby to develop in an infection-free environment. The pods are made of materials that prevent germs from sticking to their surfaces. Every growth pod features sensors that can monitor your baby's vital signs, including heartbeat, temperature, blood pressure, breathing rate, and oxygen saturation. The artificial intelligence-based system also monitors the physical features of your baby and reports any potential genetic abnormalities. The pods are equipped with a screen that displays real-time data on the developmental progress of your baby. These data are sent directly to your phone so you can track your baby's health from the comfort of your zone. The app also provides you with a high-resolution live view of your baby's development. A special section in the app allows you to watch a time-lapse of your baby's growth and share it directly with your loved ones. Because babies can recognize language and learn new words while still in the womb, Ectolife growth pods feature internal speakers that play a wide range of words and music to your baby. Through the app, you can choose the playlist that your baby listens to. You can also directly sing to your baby and make them familiar with your voice before birth. Our goal is to provide you with an intelligent offspring that truly reflects your smart choices. Ectolife improves your bonding experience with your baby. Thanks to a 360 degrees camera that's fitted inside your baby's growth pod, you can use your virtual reality headset to explore what it's like to be in your baby's place. See what they see and hear what they hear. Using a wireless haptic suit connected to your baby's growth pod, you will be able to sense their kicks in the womb and share this experience with your friends and family members. With Ectolife, your baby will receive the best nutrients that can support their growth. Each group of pods is connected to 2 central bioreactors. The first bioreactor contains nutrients and oxygen, which are supplied to your baby through an artificial umbilical cord. This bioreactor also contains a liquid solution that serves as the amniotic fluid that surrounds babies in the mother's uterus. It's rich of vital hormones, growth factors, and antibodies that sustain your baby's growth and development. Thanks to a system controlled by artificial intelligence, each baby receives custom nutrients tailored to their needs. The second bioreactor is designed to eliminate any waste products produced by the babies. The artificial umbilical cord helps the babies to release their waste products into the second bioreactor. With the help of a delicate layer of engineered enzymes, the second bioreactor can then recycle waste products and turn them back into useful nutrients. This way, the facility ensures a steady and sustainable supply of fresh nutrients to your baby. With Ectolife, miscarriage and low sperm count are a thing of the past. Prior to placing the fertilized embryo of your baby inside the growth pod, in vitro fertilization is used to create and select the most viable and genetically superior embryo, giving your baby a chance to develop without any biological hurdles.
Nope.
And if you want your baby to stand out and have a brighter future, our Elite package offers you the opportunity to genetically engineer the embryo before implanting it into the artificial womb.
This is the quickest way to clear out stuck poop.
What the?
Yeah, exactly. Clear out that stuck poop.
It
Um,
stopped us. Okay, so what do you think? Isn't that wild? It's a concept, but I think
yeah, that's
Netherlands said
parody.
that they were within 10 days of developing the first artificial. Um,
That's not no, that's not gonna happen. What you just
but
saw right there, the first batch is gonna create nothing but a bunch of retarded ass babies.
but
Them
there
babies are
is,
gonna be retarded.
yeah, but there is a breakthrough because in 2017, I think there was a biobag where it was the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, and they created like an artificial womb system,
Yeah,
and they
I'm
called it
sure.
the biobag. And then there have been
Did they
recent
make a little retarded ass baby? Did they make a baby?
no, 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 no.
When they do, that baby gonna be
But
retarded, weak. It's gonna be
no,
allergic to
it
peanuts.
wasn't. Yeah, no, no, and it wasn't. So what they did that bio bag for, it wasn't to create artificial babies. The whole purpose of them doing it is to help premature fetuses or babies, whatever they want to call them. And it was so
That's a bad idea.
when,
It's a bad idea. It's a
well,
very bad idea.
okay, so you have had 4
Yes.
kids, right? Were any of them
No.
premature? Okay, so I have kids and one of mine was
Okay.
premature.
How are they doing
And
now?
they're doing
That's beautiful.
magnificent. But they one of them had to be
Okay.
incubated and put like in this little incubation system with light and stuff
Mm.
like that to help the baby
Yeah.
grow to where she needed to
Mm.
grow, because she was born weeks
Okay.
premature. So the whole concept of, and I understood this until they went borderline to this point of the ecto
Mm.
life, that I don't agree. So when I found out about the concept of an artificial
All
womb
right.
was to
So
help,
let
the
me
premature
help you out here.
baby.
Let me help you out here. This is why we got
Okay.
negative growth population now. This is I'm serious. This is exactly why we have negative growth population now.
Oh no,
Because
Sticky Rivers told me like, what the hell have I been watching? I'm like, I don't know. I just come across stuff.
because when you create when you sustain a life of weak genetics, you perpetuate weak genetics. For example, them selecting the sperm and helping the sperm inseminate the egg. If the sperm is too weak to inseminate the egg, then you gonna make a weak human being. That motherfucker wasn't supposed to procreate. His genetic pool is supposed to die off. Sorry, bro. Your dick ain't strong enough.
Okay. So you're saying
You
that,
fucking with nature and you're creating. This is why all the kids is running around retarded
and
now.
if your bloodline is not destined to continue, then you're saying, why the F are you trying to continue your bloodline if it was your destiny, the way God wanted it for your bloodline not to continue because you're probably a heathen mother effer or whatever the case may be?
You got
Is that what you're
you
trying to
have
say?
people with weak genetics making babies, perpetuating weak genetics, and then wondering why we have negative population growth. So you keep creating weak people. If the sperm can't get to the egg, maybe you need stronger people. Maybe you need better genetics. Maybe you need to check the diet of your nation. Maybe it's the
Do you think
processed
that's
food.
why?
Maybe it's the vaccines. Maybe it's the air.
Do you think that's probably why maybe in history and up to date, a lot of men go from flower to flower, fertilizing it to see which one would turn out to be a good?
Potentially. I mean, a Western civilization, if we're starting to go back to medieval time period, they did a lot of retarded shit. They were really stupid people. Like they were killing their wives because the wives wouldn't give them a son, but that's all dictated based upon when you inseminate. And it's really dependent on the male, and you can create male babies or female babies depending on gestation. It's a whole other story. Anyway, um, but
So you can really tell when you're gonna create a boy or a girl based
when you
on.
copulate with you can actually, depending on what time period you have, it's the beginning of ovulation and the end of ovulation. I forget which one is a boy, which is a girl, but if you
So it has nothing to do with the
no,
positions? Like if you're on
no,
top,
no,
if the
no,
female's on
no,
top, you're
no,
gonna have
time period.
girls. If the female's on
No,
the bottom, you're gonna have
no,
a boy.
no, no. It's all about time period. What point of ovulation it happens. Okay. For example, if you go look at ancient Egypt, right? Ancient Egypt had
Mhm.
a what you call it, a birth test. They could tell you if you had a boy or a girl. Yes.
Really?
Ancient Egypt could tell you if you were having a boy or a girl. And this
But isn't that like predicting the future and isn't that like
no, Europe figured this out in the late 1800s as well. P test, right? You have this P test. But they could actually tell you if you having a boy or a girl.
I don't know. This world, what it's becoming, our society is one effed up world, trying to play God, trying to
Actually, I take that
create.
back. They
It's
had a pregnancy test. No, I take that back. It was a pregnancy test. And it could tell, I gotta go back in my notes. It could tell whether you were pregnant or not, based upon what germinated. I gotta go back into my notes. I'll go back to my notes and double check. But I want to say let's just say at the very least they had a pregnancy test in ancient Egypt, and that was developed around the, mid to late 1800s in Europe as well. They had a pregnancy test based upon urination. So if you had ancient Egypt had a pregnancy test, and Europe figures this out, thousands of years later, it kind of tells you a lot about what we don't know about the human body, what we don't know about plant life, right? Like, and that's really what this comes down to, the amount of information we don't have about plant life. We're trying to solve a population problem without solving a people problem. If why why would you help weak genes perpetuate instead of making strong sperm, right? Like there are, for example, my product Apex, right? My homeboy, he
mhm.
takes Apex. This is him and his wife having another baby. Is just having babies, right? Like there are certain herbs that we can take that rejuvenate and help balance hormones, et cetera, et cetera. But some people are going this weird scientific sci-fi route, and it's like, why don't you fix your sperm, bro? Like, why don't you fix you? It's you that's the problem instead of like
So you don't think that these people, like medical people, whoever is the
they just try
scientific
and get money.
doing the scientific research, you don't think that that's what they're trying to do? They're trying to create a better human
But it's not
based
it's
on X, Y,
that's
and
not
Z?
how life works. That's not how nature works. They're gonna create a bunch of weak ass babies. They said that they're gonna keep the baby free of bacteria. That's
Mhm.
stupid. That's so dumb. That's so anti-science. We need bacteria. There's bacteria on us
Yeah,
right now that does
there's
things.
bacteria in our
Yeah,
stomachs,
that
like
does things for us. So like this whole concept of we're gonna keep the baby completely sanitized, like, okay.
yeah, and then once it breathes, once the air hits it, whatever, then they're gonna be messed up for
Yep.
life because it's like they were so sanitized. Now it's like they don't have the antibiotics or what are they called to fight whatever is in the air, dust, mites, these microorganisms. There's
Yes.
tiny little animals that are on our skin that are in everything. And how is a little robotic baby going to fight all that if they are completely
It's gonna be some
sanitized?
weak ass babies out here. They're just like we got all these weird ass people
I
running around.
Robot, let me tell you, it's coming, and they're
Do you
trying
see
to
these new
control us. They're
kids
trying to
with blue
control the world.
hair that vote for Democrats?
Yeah.
These are the lab babies. This is weak genetics. My homeboy's in the chat. He right there. He can tell you've been taking Apex and having another baby. He's right there,
Who?
Renee. He right there in the chat. That one I was just telling you about. He said Apex helped him with kid number
Oh,
5.
oh my God.
Yeah, they're gonna have a compromised immune system. All types of weird shit gonna happen.
Are you gonna have a kid number 5,
Only
Hotep?
with you. If you'll accept me.
Hotep, I'm at that age where I don't want to have any
Oh
more
yeah?
kids.
We'll
I'm
put it in an
done.
octopod.
In an octopod. I mean, if you want to change diapers and feed the bottle and all that stuff,
You're
then
Hispanic. You should be
we can
doing
go
that.
for it. Just because I'm Hispanic doesn't mean that I have to
Well,
do
I
it.
ain't doing the shit.
Yeah, I ain't doing it either. So I guess we're not gonna have a baby. We can have a
Wah,
plant.
wah, wah.
I mean, it's a lot funner practicing anyways.
Yeah, we can get plenty of practice in.
Oh my God. We completely went left field.
You
The
started
show
it.
is going left field. You finished it.
I ain't finished yet.
One day you will. Okay, on that note, tune in tomorrow for Julie Kennis at 4 Eastern Standard Time, her show on YouTube, and on Sunday as well, crypto news. And then on Sunday, we also have Boss News with Boss Face at 1 Eastern Standard Time. Then we are back on Monday for David's radio show. He named it again. I don't know why he keeps damn changing it. It was meme radio. Now it's crypto radio, or I don't remember, but 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, and the breakdown at 1 Eastern Standard Time. And then Hotep, he comes on at 2 Eastern Standard Time on Kick the Grift Report for all the grifties. And then at 4, Julie Ken is back. No, 2 p.m. I'm trying to go muscle memory. Money Maxis at 2 with Jules, Soka, and Empress. And then, yes, Sunday we have Conspiracy Theory with Tammy Hammer, Conspiracy Sunday, where we are going to talk about the moon landing non-existent.
I can't wait. I already got my notes.
You got your notes? I'm very
Already.
curious to Hotep. His conspiracy theory is that we never went back to the moon because there are people that are living in the moon, people, aliens, organisms, whatever they are, not sure, that told whoever landed on the moon not to come back. So the images and the videos that we have of the astronaut landing on the moon actually is not real. That was produced in a high skill setting, production set, and the real one has not been released. Is that correct?
Correct.
Hotep?
That's correct. Nailed it.
See, I don't forget other things. I only remember what I want to remember.
Mhm.
But according to Hotep, that's what really happened. And we're going to discuss the moon landing on Sunday. So everybody come with your tinfoil hat. And if you don't have one, you don't have to come. But we're going to be, if you want to come, you can come. We're going to be very, no, you don't. Oh, my God. Tammy, look at this.
I'm ready. Let's bring it on. I stay ready. I told you I stay ready.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Conspiracy theory. I need to create one for Sunday. Tammy, you also need a tinfoil hat, Tammy, for Sunday.
Let's get it.
On that note, Hotep, thank you again for coming on and joining me tonight to the nightly recap powered by Gokhshtein Media. I'm Leslie Mota. This is a chocolatey Hotep. Jesus, bringing in that. I'm just not going to say anything else. Hotep, do you want to say anything?
You said it all. I'll see you guys next Friday. Great job tonight, Leslie.
Thank you very much. And remember, somebody go eat some M&Ms that they melt in your mouth, not in your hand.